can share. You guys can see that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
We can see it.
So I'm doing JUnit testing tonight. And JUnit is an open source framework used by developers to write and run repeatable tests. JUnit promotes the idea of first testing and then coding. So this emphasizes on setting up the test data for a piece of code, and then we test it, and if it works or it runs the way we want, then we would implement it. And so just kind of talking some basic testing. Testing is a process of checking the functionality of an application to ensure it runs as the requirements. Unit testing comes into picture at the developer's level. It is the testing of a single entity like a class or a method. And unit tests play a critical role in helping a software company develop quality products to its customers, because we can try just parts of it first out. And then unit testing can be done in two ways. Of course, we have manual and automated testing. And so the great part about JUnit is that it's important to the development of a test-driven development. And it's one of the families of unit testing inside the framework that we can get with Java. And so some of the features of a JUnit is it provides annotation to identify the test methods. It provides assertions for testing expected results. JUnit tests can be run automatically, and they check for their own results. And usually it's a pass or fail. And there's no need to have to climb through it, because immediately those tests will pop up as we run those tests. And JUnit tests can be organized into test suites. And so we can run them individually or as groups. And JUnit shows test progress on a bar. Usually it's a green bar if it's passed, and it's a red bar if it fails. It depends on how you have it set up in your IDE, because sometimes they can just print out, you had 12 tests, none of them failed, this is how long it took to run. And then JUnit classes, they actually have classes that of different things that you can write and test with. And the three most important ones are usually the assert class. And this is just a set of different assert methods. And those are the ones that Brother Tuckett gave the list on that we need to do. They also have a test case. And this contains a test case that defines the fixture to run multiple tests. And then they have a test result. And sometimes we use those with our asserts, but it contains the methods to collect the results that you're doing. So you could do a range and go outside or inside and give different results that you're looking for. And the ones that we'll kind of talk or at least go over a little bit are the assert methods. And they are used to show pass or fail. And this helps to speed up our programming, how fast we can program, and increase our quality. And so the ones that Brother Tuckett said he was wanting us to use is an assert array equals, assert false, assert not null, assert not same, assert null, assert same, assert that, and assert true. And where I went to look and to use those was at JUnit SourceForge. It gave the syntax and stuff of how you could use each one of those. And we'll look at that in just a minute, that webpage. And then I've given just an example of what you would need to do if you were wanting to test something. So the first thing you would need to do is create a class, something that you're trying to do. So here we have a class with a method to convert temperature. And so that's what's on the left side here. And then this would be in our JUnit. This is actually going to be in our testing. And so I've just kind of numbered or taken this photo that's numbering down just what we need to do. So the first thing you're going to have to import in is your org.junit asserts. And here, they've actually done it for a specific assert equals, but here you could just write assert and asterisk. That way it'll cover all the tests that you're doing, or you can write it like this. And both of them will work. And then you'll need to call it. It still has a test class, and a lot of times you want to name this test to what you're trying to test. It could even have been here, conversion equals test, to say I'm going to be testing that it equals what I think it's going to equal. And then the next thing that we see is that this is that annotation that lets it know what we're doing. And there's lots of different annotations that we can use. Most of the time, we're just going to use the at test. But we could also use an at before. And this would be a statement or a precondition that's going to happen before the test. We could use an at after, which will run some statement after the at test. There's an at ignore, which saying, I want you to ignore this particular statement and run the rest of the tests without looking at that one. And there's an at before class and an at after class. And both of these are used to run statements before and after a test case. And then if we jump down here to 6, because we already talked about this one's what we're naming it. Number 6 tells us that we have to then create or call an instance of whatever method or thing that we're testing, because that's how we'll get it to test. This is necessary so that we can call the method. Then we write any of the variables that we're saying they're going to need for this test. That's what we'd be passing into the class, is that it would be getting a double of whatever number for the temperature, and that it would say what it is I want to convert, whether it's going to go Fahrenheit or whatever. And so that's what we're giving it here, and then we're going to test it. And so we're saying that the result under this test will be that we'll give it a temperature in a unit, which we've given here, and we're going to assert that it's going to equal this. And then when we run it, it'll say whether it passed or failed. And so that's what's happening in this particular example. Is there any questions on that?
No, no questions.
Perfect. And then these are some of the sources and places I really like. Tutorial Point, it's got great stuff. And then of course we talked about the SourceForge, and then dzone is where I took that example that they broke down. And so I'll exit out of here and show you, maybe if I get all these out of the way. So here is all the different asserts in the class assert under org JUnit. And what I liked about them is it first gave the examples. We can use an assert array equals with a byte or a char, an integer. So we can use it with pretty much anything, an object, an array, if for the assert arrays. So I was able to get them here and see all the different ones in the class, but then you could actually get details of how you would write it. And so when I was writing each one, I usually came here, made sure I wrote it right, and then went and wrote one. And so when I wrote my tests, I wrote a conversion one as well, just because math and stuff's easy. And so I actually wrote an if statement. If the string unit comes in as an F, then they'll go ahead and do this. If it comes in as a C, then you'd run this one and return the temperature. And so then as we roll over to my tests, which you'll find down in the test packages, you'll call it a name. And this one, I'm calling it my JUnit examples. And it goes to the method or class that I was using here for conversion. And then here's my imports for the org JUnit test. And then I've got it for the assert with just the asterisk. So it'll take any of them that I do. And here's my first one. So I'm saying if the temperature gets entered in as 80 and they say Fahrenheit, then I'm saying the result, taking those two things, should say that I get 26.67. And as you run it, I'm saying the result should be the same. And then when I run the test, it'll either pass or fail. And then you can write it for anything. Sometimes I couldn't think how I wanted to test a particular assert. Like I'm saying I'm going to assert that this will fail. And this one, I'm actually calling it test faults calculate. So if we come over to my calculate, which is just another method I wrote, I'm just giving something really easy to use. So here I was going to be given two values, and we're just going to add them together and return the sum. And so if you look, I'm asserting that if you were given a 5 and a 3, I'm asserting it won't equal 9, because 5 plus 3 should be 8. And so I'm expecting that this will fail. And so this is one that you could use to test outside of the parameters that you're looking in to show that it does work the way it's supposed to. And so I would just write different methods or different ideas. This one, I needed to test an array, I needed to have an array and have it do something. And so I'm asserting here that these two arrays are equal, and that this will be the result when you run the test. So then once you have your tests written, then you just come over here and you just run them. And so if I run my tests, it's saying that my test suite compiled of my conversion tests, and it says I ran 12 tests and I didn't have any failures, I didn't have any errors, it didn't skip any, and that everything is good. And it's okay if something fails, because you can then take a look, and it may be that you wanted it to fail, and that can be part of the testing too. Just because it doesn't pass doesn't mean that there was something wrong. You just need to check what it was that you were looking for. And that's everything that I have on JUnit. Any questions?
No, that's fantastic and smooth. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think the great thing that I liked about, well, one, I remembered that we did some JUnit testing when we, in what, 260? Whatever the other class was in Java. We did it for the methods for our games or whatever, for the different parts of it. But I liked that it's pretty simple to write. I mean, most of the time you can write the tests in 2 or 3 lines. You're just asserting, I assert that this is the answer, go ahead and run it. And that doesn't take very much time. So I can see the benefit of why it would be better to have testing small little code, make sure it works, and doing it often, because you can catch a lot of stuff really fast. So anyways, that's what I have. And then has anybody even looked at the system tests?
I haven't yet. Sorry,
I haven't either. I mean, that's what I'm supposed to be looking at this week, but I haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure about the system test because the way that example that I saw I believe in one of the chats, it was just a spreadsheet that said if I click on this is going to happen. If I click on this is going to happen.
Right. And I did read that is kind of what he's, Brother Tuckett's expecting. So at this point, because we haven't designed an application, we're just to pick an application or thing that we're familiar with. And then in an Excel spreadsheet, we're going to say what that system would do. If it comes in and say, I'm going to log in and do this, it'll say, yes, I passed, or no, I didn't, and what would come up next. Next, I would see this, and as I press this, my options would be that I can go here or here. If I go here, this is what will happen, it'll pass. If I go here, it'll fail, sending me back to whatever. So it sounds like we just walked through, and I think he said it needed was it like 10 steps?
Right, yeah.
I think he came back saying something, but it sounded like it was something we could write in words. And I thought, did Mason show us one last week?
Is that where I saw it? Was it
I
them
think
that showed
last
it to
week,
us?
I think Mason showed us when we were in the meeting saying that his friend did, and it was a game or something. Was it like a turtle? I don't remember what it was. Something that went up and down. He was saying, "Oh, I think this is a," and it walked through some steps on an Excel sheet.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It was a different example. It was an Excel sheet. Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I saw it. I'm trying to find it right now.
I'm pretty sure Mason may have shown us one.
Was it Mason? Okay.
I thought it was last week. I think it was after we'd done the presentations. We just got talking about it, and he was saying this is what somebody in his group had done. And I think that was about when his screen went into, he had looked through enough GitHubs that it said it might be a hacker or something.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's where we saw it then.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure because he was looking to see if he could find some other examples. I don't remember what we were looking for at that point, but I think that was about the time that it started to say he was moving through a lot of stuff quickly and that maybe it was to not be good things.
Yeah, I find that interesting. That's one of GitHub's kind of protections is like if you're looking at a bunch of different repositories.
So I'm not gonna that's right. I'm not gonna. They're public and anybody can look at them. But you've moved through too fast, so I'm gonna pause you for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, does anybody have any questions? Like I said, that was what I was gonna try and tackle tomorrow, was to see what I could find on it and read.
No questions on your presentation. I thought it was pretty good. I do have a question for the group, though. Does Brother Tucker, does he post the office meeting somewhere? Like, does he have office hours that he records and posts somewhere in this?
I don't think he records and does office hours all the time. I think if you notify him, he'll make arrangements to meet with you at a certain time. But I don't think that he just holds regular office hours.
Oh, okay. I thought I was missing something through this semester. I just didn't know he hadn't posted somewhere.
No, I think mainly I've just learned to look it over almost everything in the board, which is a pain because it's really hard. It is a lot, and it's hard to see. And a lot of times a question will be asked and he never seems to get to it. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard to tell. But I do know he did jump on that one last week. And I thought he said how many kind of steps or kind of tests as we're walking through. I thought it was like 10 to 15 maybe. But that might have been for something else.
Let's see.
Have you guys ever used the case diagrams or the documents on that? Because I haven't, most of these towards the bottom, I'm like, I've never even used or heard of these, unless we called them something different.
No, I'm going to do case diagrams as my lesson for next week. So I'll study up on that this week. I'll let you know.
Perfect.
But yeah, when he was talking about, so the only time if it's what I think it is that just where we have actual values that we put into variables and say like, if these values were inputted, then this is going to create an error or it's not going to create an error.
Right.
I don't know if that's what the case diagram is, but in my mind, that's what it sounds like. Like where where it's not just like a description of what might happen, it's where you actually put real values into it. But I'll definitely study up and try to give a presentation next week on it. Perfect.
Anything else, guys? Otherwise, I say we go since everybody's got stuff to get to.
No, that's it for me. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna get back to packing. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, good luck with your stuff.
On your trip.
Thank you.
Thanks for the lesson. That was great.
All right. See y'all next week.
All right.